60 years after the country gained its independence, Kenyans have witnessed 5 transitions of power. Over the years, Kenyans hoped that the exit of the British would bring hope to the country in terms of political mileage and ruling, shifting from colonial, adopting boundaries and leadership largely borrowed from the British. Upon the entry of Jomo Kenyatta, his cabinet was represented as key face of regional balance, with some calling him a visionary leader.
When you saw his cabinet, you saw the country represented. Parliament also, they had the burden of actually lifting the country, moving it from colonial facing to now a self-governing country, redoing the laws, a parliament that had respect, a parliament that really, that's where we see people like Martin Shikuku, the People's Watchman. We see people like...
Kenyatta fronted different challenges from Ajimbo's to shift a war.
He tried very hard to bring the country together by appointing ministers from various regions. And that policy worked. Moi himself trying to perfect it.
Their differences with Jaramogi, however, threatened the very soul of Uhuru that Kenyans hoped for.
When the white man tried to negotiate with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga to hand over presidency while his comrade Jomo Kenyatta was in jail, he was very categorical. He told them, come, let Jomo Kenyatta be released to lead us to independence.
Analysts, however, differ that at the time the growth of impunity, corruption and ethnicity grew foot as the Kiambu Mafia group sought to stamp authority.
There is, of course, the story of the Kiambu Mafia, tribalism taking root then. But during that particular time, the aspect of patriotism superseded any other form of identity. People knew there was tribalism. People knew there was corruption.
Jomo Kenyatta, a presidency, was not just a tribal presidency, but it was only tribal in relation to the rich minority that continued to support white settler interest in our country.
But with President Moi, things became a little tougher after inheriting the presidency following the death of Kenya's founding father. The 1992 coup, led by Hezekiah Chuka, is said to have hardened President Moi as political exiles. Disappearance and assassinations became the order of the day.
So even when he increased torture, he exiled people, he even hanged them, the resistance even became firmer on him. So what did Moi do to do that? He decided to negotiate. So that is why you think that, for example, the radical student leader Mwandawiro Mganga,
Moi solidified his reign for 24 years as the quest for multi-party democracy rented the air, forcing Moi to agree without a choice to repeal Section 2A of the Constitution. The two previous regime adherents to the Bill of Rights remained critiqued.
Let me just call them the first to watch under Kenyatta 1 and then Moi. The Bill of Rights, freedoms and liberties were not... So those two regimes do not have a good reputation when it comes to the Bill of Rights.
Under the Kibaki regime, the growth of democracy rose, having served since the first regime, his election becoming a hope to Kenyans who had ended the dictatorial leadership of Moi.
He earned his respect and he became a darling of our history, not out of the power he had, but out of the work he did. He served the nation and the nation did not serve him.
Differences emerged after NAC government took over following a breach of an MOU signed between Raila Odinga and Kibaki. A consequent loss in the referendum for Kibaki was backing the constitution changes led to the landmark cabinet firing. Former head of public service Francis Mudaura explains the intrigues.
Raila felt that he was not given what he deserved in those appointments. And that really caused a problem. Note that the rules were not given the number of ministers they deserved.
After the firing, analysts argue that Kibaki's henchmen took over in what has been described by pundits as the entrenchment of favoritism in the country's employment sector.
In terms of rewarding tribalism, we cannot really say that the Kikuyus benefited in Kibaki's government. We can say a few rich Kikuyus benefited in Kibaki's government.
The consequent tumultuous 2007 election and the violence that rocked the country became Kibaki's worst political moment, leading to the formation of the National Accord through the troubled Grand Coalition government.
The whole thing became even worse because the Raila camp, with only 6 ministers, won against the government. So that's why the cabinet was dissolved and a new cabinet was formed to start a new thrust.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
In 2013, in came the fourth president, Uhuru Kenyatta, the first to fully implement the 2010 promulgated constitution. His reign was cultured with disobedience of court orders. To single out just one, the defunct Building Bridges initiative thrown out by the courts.
Uhuru Kenyatta had progressive foreign policies. That is every time, even in the international community, Uhuru Kenyatta had the best foreign policies that any other president has ever had.
The presidency in the country, despite having over 45 tribes, has only been maintained in the two regions. President Uhuru Kenyatta, during his tenure, advocated for a rotational presidency to ensure regional balancing, eliciting mixed reactions.
Kuna jamii tu mbili za Kenya ambazo zimetawala, labda ni nafasi ya jamii ingine pia kutawala.
I do not think that the idea of a rotational presidency can solve our problems of governance. What we need is a functional constitutional democracy.
It's really to make sure that we bring democracy in the political parties that are covering the whole country, and the political parties focus on the best people available amongst them, not the tribe.
Analysts are of the opinion that the country's democracy process dictates that majority must have their say and minority their way. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.